is that time of the week again, everybody. It is championship predictions time. It is game week 6. After this game week, we'll be done with 13% of the season, which is quite scary. We're going through it at an incredible pace yet again, as we do with all championship seasons, it feels like. And without any further delays, let's get into game week 6. Actually, I take that back. We've got to look at game week 5 before we look at game week 6, and specifically my predictions and how I did. And it's the exact same record as game week 4. 5 correct outcomes, 0 bob-ons, which again is embarrassing. Correct outcomes I got were Ipswich to beat Sheffield United by 2-1. That was obviously 5-0 to Ipswich. We'll talk about Sheffield United in a little bit more depth later on. Charlton against Millwall, which I thought would be 0-0. That was 1-1. Oxford against Leicester, which I thought would be 1-1. That was Desmond. That was 2-2. Preston against Borough, which I again said would be 1-1. That was also a Desmond. And I said Bristol City would beat Sheffield Wednesday by 1-0, and we beat them by 3-0. This is the first weekend. I also did not correctly predict a Watford outcome, which I'm also a little bit surprised about. But it's lasted 4 game weeks, which I think is a pretty good record. So yeah, that's how I did in game week 5. Now we can get into game week 6, and we'll start off with Friday night when Middlesbrough play West Brom at the Riverside. Borough, despite dropping their first points of the season at Deepdale, are still unbeaten. They're one of 3 unbeaten sides in the Championship alongside Coventry and Bristol City. West Brom felt a somewhat surprising defeat in my eyes against Derby, but if you ask any Albion fans and you check the historic record, they always lose to Derby. So not a major surprise in that manner, but they did lose their first game of the season in the league. And this will be another interesting game. Ryan Mason has shown to be sort of somewhat flexible and adaptable. Pretty much all the games he's played so far, with the Blackburn on opening day with a lot of ball, and then Stoke away, they were quite pragmatic. So it's a nice mix from what we've seen from Albion. I'm still quite impressed with how they've started. Middlesbrough have obviously been the fast starters of the division. They've started really well. I will sit on the fence and I'll go with my favourite prediction. I'll go Middlesbrough 1, West Brom 1. First at 12:30s on Saturday, we're going to talk about is QPR against Stoke. Both sides won last time out in their respective games. QPR went to Wrexham and won 3-1 at the racecourse. Stoke beat Birmingham very impressively and very deservedly, from what I've seen anyway, by 1-0 at home. This is going to be another very interesting game. This is going to be it's incredibly hard to call this one as well. I could easily sit on the draw. I'm not going to go for 2 draws in a row though. So for that reason, I'm going to back Mark Robins. I'm going to back Stoke. I'm going to take the away win, which might be a little bit harsh on QPR, to be honest. I will go for that. I will go for QPR 1, Stoke 2. It's another derby in the Championship. I want to say the middle is a little bit confusing for me in terms of what constitutes as a derby and what's not. Some interesting. It's a rivalry. There is certainly no love lost between the two sides. It's Leicester against Coventry at the King Power. Leicester being at home, I think, probably give them the advantage in this one. Again, it's a very hard game to call. Coventry created loads of chances against Norwich, and that's been a sort of trend this season. They typically score loads of goals. They managed to find that cutting edge. Hadji Wright, Ellis Sims, whoever it is, Bruno Thomas Asante, if they can find that cutting edge, they will score loads of goals, Coventry. Leicester, we saw what they did when they came up against Birmingham. They won 2-0, but they were resolute defensively. They were very good. They were very solid and used that attacking power like Mavdidi, Fatawu, Jordan Ayew, some good attacking players Leicester have got, to use them in the final third. I think we might see a little bit of a similar repeat from Marcus Fuentes, but I will give Coventry a goal because I think they are good for a goal. So I will go Leicester 2, Coventry 1. Staying in the Midlands, in the confusing rivalry part of the country, it's Birmingham against Swansea and Blues. There's been quite a few critics, haven't there? It's all very good having this nice pattern of play and, pretty passes and stuff like that. Got to be able to create chances and be able to take those chances. Blues have had 2 shots on target combined in the last 3 games, which is nowhere near enough. And certainly got good attacking players to create those chances and to take those chances. Swansea will be a very good test. They've had a good start the season. Swansea, they conceded late on against Hull at home, but been relatively competitive in most games. I reckon they might cause a little bit of an upset. I don't think they'll go there and win, but I think they'll get a point. I think it'll be Blues 1, Swansea 1. Sheffield United up against Charlton next. Sheffield United have been the big story over these past few days in the Championship. A 5-0 defeat at Ipswich, and the writing was on the wall for Ruben Selles. He was out after 5 straight defeats in the Championship. Sheffield United at bottom of the table, and guess who they have turned to? It is the return of the king, if you will. Chris Wilder is back at Blades for a 3rd spell, and yeah, there's a little bit of pressure on him because Sheffield United are in a bit of a sticky situation. This is the second year of the parachute payments, so there will be a little bit of expectation. Well, there's a ticking bomb, isn't there, at Sheffield United? Get promoted, well, no parachute payments next season. He's got a good squad at his disposal. He's got some excellent defenders at his disposal. It's just about managing to configure a way to get them in the right system and don't be so open as they have been for the first 5 games of the league season. Charlton won't make it easy for them going forward, but Sheffield United still has some incredibly good attacking players. Tyrese Campbell, Gus Harmer. Yeah, they've got some good attacking players. Callum O'Hare. I think, despite Charlton's pretty resolute performances this season, I think Sheffield United will be a little bit too strong for them, especially with a new old manager bounce with Chris Wilder. I am going to go for Sheffield United 2, Charlton 0. Next up, Pompey against Sheffield Wednesday. Pompey really impressed me in that South Coast derby against Southampton. If you take the sort of emotional derby element out of it, going away to a year one parachute team and performing like that, outperforming them in the first half, I thought the better team could have easily taken the lead. Also kept Southampton very quiet in that first half. Yeah, okay, second half was a little bit more even. I thought Southampton probably just edged it. Could have won it, but I thought Pompey were very, very good value for that 0-0 and were very, very impressive. Certainly sets a platform for John Mousinho's side. We also know they're much better at Fratton. They were much better last season at Fratton than they were away from home. Sheffield Wednesday really struggling, and as I saw with my very own eyes, you score a goal early against them, they do tend to just not be able to respond to that. And with the intensity at Fratton, with the general strong starts that Pompey had at Fratton last season, I'm going to go for a repeat for Sheffield Wednesday. I am going to go for Pompey 3, Wednesday 0. Next up, Norwich against Wrexham, and two managers who were under a little bit of pressure, potentially. Wrexham 21st, and they were near an acceptable position for them. And it's not like they've been unlucky in games. They are conceding boatloads of goals and boatloads of chances. I think two of the worst sort of XG against teams in the Championship as well. So this could be some fireworks. Norwich, I thought, well, looks like, a little bit fortunate to come away with a point despite conceding a late equaliser. Very pragmatic, very defensive display at CBS. Got a 1-1 draw in the end, which in isolation doesn't look the worst result in the world. But still, I think this being at Carrow Road, I think I'm probably going to back Norwich and Liam Manning. So for that reason, for the home advantage, I'm going to go Norwich 2, Wrexham 1. Next up, Hull against Southampton. Hull continued to ship a lot of goals. Conceded 2 at Swansea last time out, but did get a very, very, very late equaliser through John Egan. 97th minute, get a pretty decent point at Swansea. Saints still not fully up and running, are they? And it feels like there's still a little bit of time before we see a Southampton that's going to be threatening right near the top of the division. So this might be a good time for Hull to actually get something off them. So I will go for Hull to concede 2 again, but I will go for them, McBurney, Gelhardt, and Darla, Akintola, to have a good game going forward. I'll go for a Desmond. I'll go for honours even. I'll go Hull 2, Southampton 2. Off to Pride Park, where Derby play Preston. Derby got their first win of the season at the Hawthorns last time out. I was a little bit surprised they went to the Hawthorns and won, but no surprise that Derby have got their first win of the season. They're getting their players back, or some of their players back slowly. I mean, Patrick Aubameyang came off the bench and got an assist for the Andy Vyman goal. So don't be surprised if Derby went on a little run soonish and, climbed themselves into mid-table or even better. Preston conceded a very late equaliser against Middlesbrough. Yes, but upon reflection, that's probably a good point, or is a good point against a Middlesbrough side that's high-flying at the moment. I think if this was at Deepdale, I'd probably back Preston. But the fact this is at Derby and at Pride Park, I'm going to go with home advantage. I could easily, again, back a draw. I will go for Derby to win. I'll go for Derby to win 1-0. Again, I'll go Derby 1, Preston 0. Blackburn against Ipswich next. Blackburn got a very good win at Watford last time out, and I didn't expect that, considering how the sort of transfer window ended for them. Ipswich won 5-0 against Sheffield United. I mean, they did put a sorry blades to the sword a little bit, but still, got to beat what's in front of you, and they did so very well. Jane Philogene, also being the star of the show, got a hat-trick. Clark, Philogene, Smodics, Akpom, Casey McAteer. We know about Ipswich's front line. That's the first time the season that's properly gone and tick. They got their first win of the season. I think there was still some faults in Ipswich's performance. The first half wasn't brilliant. First 20 minutes in particular weren't brilliant. I thought United were probably slightly better. I think this is at Ewood. Blackburn have a little bit of momentum from that win. I'll go for a draw, and I think probably a little bit of an upset. I think Ipswich would probably be heavy favourites. I get why, but I will go for a draw. I'll go for a little bit of a gamble. I'll go Blackburn 1, Ipswich 1. Up next, Bristol City against Oxford. Fantastic win for City, for us against Sheffield Wednesday. Comfortable, professional, just good away win. And the game was over after about 20 minutes when it went 2-0 and then definitely over. 3-0, Oxford still not, still winless. They should have won against Leicester. They played against 10 men for large proportions of the game and yeah, just couldn't quite seal the game. They are scoring a lot more goals though. They scored two against Hull, 2 against Coventry, and then now 2 against Leicester. But that will feel like a missed opportunity not to win that game, especially when they went ahead in that game as well. So completely neutrally looking at it, I think it'll be hard to make a case for Oxford going to Ashton Gate and winning. Obviously, wouldn't be surprised because this is Bristol City and all of that. I think we should be able to have enough to overcome Oxford and continue an unbeaten start. But this way, I'll be very surprised if we lose. Fair enough to Oxford if they do that, but I'll be very surprised if we lose this game. I'll go for a narrow Bristol City win, though. I think I'll go for another 2-1 home win for City. And finally, on the Monday night, which is a rarity in the Championship, Millwall against Watford. Millwall were sort of toothless, didn't really create too much, but after the red card for Kane Ramsey, had a little bit of momentum, got an equaliser in that derby, the South London derby against Charlton, a good away point in the end. Watford lost at home to Blackburn. They're all over the place in terms of form. Wouldn't be surprised if any 3 results come up in this one. Millwall have looked so far this season better away from home than they have been at the Den. So for that reason, I'll go for a second straight draw for Millwall, and I'll back another 0-0 for Millwall. Actually, I'll go Millwall 0, Watford 0. Watch this be 1-1 again. But that is it. Those are my championship predictions for game week 6. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. And yeah, all 12 games, all 12 predictions would be fantastic. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And yeah, I will catch you all later. Cheers.